neon lights of Shinjuku's arcades flickered like whispers in the Tokyo night, casting their electric glow on rain-slicked streets. It was a world of color and sound, a labyrinth of sensory overload that both intrigued and disoriented. In the heart of this urban maze stood a man, his thick Montbell hiking jacket dark and heavy against the drizzle. To us foreigners, he looked like an average 20-something Japanese man, blending into the crowd yet standing apart with a quiet intensity, his eyes shadowed with the weight of unspoken stories. He found solace in the arcades, where the chaotic symphony of clinking coins and electronic beeps drowned out his thoughts. Tonight was no different. He weaved through the crowd, his eyes scanning the room with practiced indifference. It was then he saw her. She stood by a claw machine, a beacon of elegance amid the flashing lights and cacophony. Her hair, a striking shade of silver gray, cascaded in soft waves over her shoulders, catching the fluorescent hues and shimmering like silk. Her eyes, a shade of green that seemed almost unreal, focused intently on the machine. She wore a summer dress, light and airy, its fabric fluttering around her knees with each movement. The dress was a stark, almost jarring contrast to the winter chill outside. Tokyo's biting cold seemed to have no effect on her, as if the icy air dared not touch her porcelain skin. Intrigued, he approached, his footsteps swallowed by the din. He watched as she maneuvered the claw, her brow furrowing in concentration. The claw descended, grasping at the toy, only to drop it at the last moment. A soft sigh escaped her lips. She muttered in Russian, though he didn't understand the word. "Need a hand?" he asked, his voice low and rough from too many cigarettes and too many sleepless nights. She turned to him, those green eyes locking onto his with a mixture of surprise and amusement. "You think you can do better?" He shrugged, a half smile playing on his lips. "Worth a shot." She stepped aside, allowing him access to the controls. He could feel her eyes on him, studying him as he studied the machine. With a practiced hand, he guided the claw, his movements precise and calculated. The claw descended, clamped onto the toy, and lifted it slowly, almost teasingly, towards the chute. For a moment it seemed like it might fall, but then it dropped, the toy tumbling into the prize bin. He retrieved the toy and handed it to her with a small flourish. "Here you go. A gift from the machine." She took it, her fingers brushing against his. "Thank you. I'm Lara." He nodded. "Nice to meet you, Lara. I'm just passing through." "Just passing through?" she echoed, her accent softening the words, adding a melodic quality to them. "Sounds lonely," he chuckled, a sound devoid of real mirth. "It has its moments." They stood there, an island of calm in the sea of chaos, each studying the other. There was something about her, something that drew him in and made him want to know more. But in a city like Tokyo, everyone had their secrets, and he was no exception. "So, what brings you here?" he asked, breaking the silence. Lara looked down at the toy in her hands, her expression unreadable. "Sometimes you just need a distraction." He understood that all too well. The arcades, with their noise and light, were perfect for losing oneself, if only for a while. "Well, you found one." She smiled, a real smile that lit up her face and made her eyes sparkle. "Yes, I suppose I did." They talked for a while longer, the conversation flowing easily despite the noise around them. She had a way of making him forget, if only for a moment, the weight he carried. As they spoke, he couldn't help but notice how the thin straps of her dress slipped over her shoulders, exposing more of her skin to the winter air. Yet she never shivered or showed any sign of discomfort. It was as if she existed in her own season, untouched by the cold reality around them. "Do you want to get a coffee?" he asked, not wanting the night to end. Lara hesitated, a flicker of something dark crossing her eyes. Maybe another time." He nodded, understanding that some things were better left unsaid. "All right. Another time." She gave him one last smile, then turned and disappeared into the crowd, leaving him standing alone once more. The neon lights flickered overhead, and the rain continued to fall, each drop a tiny reminder of the passage of time. As he walked away from the arcade, he couldn't shake the feeling that he just missed something important. But in a city like Tokyo, moments were fleeting, and connections were often as transient as the neon lights. Step into the shadows and immerse yourself in a world of midnight Japan tales, where enigmatic stories are narrated with the intrigue and charm of classic detective stories. If you crave the excitement of mystery and the smooth allure of jazz, hit that subscribe button and light up your notifications like a neon sign on a rainy Tokyo night. Taka walked through the rain-soaked alley, the neon lights casting a shadowy glow. He had been wandering the streets for an hour, passing by fast food joints and chain restaurants that felt as lifeless as the gray pavement beneath his feet. He was looking for something special, something to break the monotony. Just as he was about to give up, a small, nondescript ramen shop caught his eye. The sign was faded, but the inviting scent of miso and soy called to him like a siren's song. He pushed open the door, stepping into the dimly lit, intimate space. Behind the counter stood a beautiful young woman, her dark hair tied back, her eyes bright and curious, like stars in a midnight sky. She moved with the grace of a dancer, each motion precise and deliberate. Take took a seat, and their eyes met, her gaze both inviting and mysterious, like a whispered secret. "What can I get for you?" she asked, her voice a soft melody. "Ramen," Take replied, his voice low and gravelly, "and a beer." She nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips, like the first light of dawn. As she worked, he watched her, mesmerized by her delicate hands moving with skill and care, like an artist crafting a masterpiece. The steam from the pot rose around her, creating an ethereal halo. Every so often she glanced at him, their eyes meeting in brief but intense moments of connection, like electric sparks in the dark. Take sipped his beer, feeling the cool liquid calm his nerves. The room was filled with a warm, inviting glow, but the heat from the steaming pot became too much. She unbuttoned the top button of her shirt, revealing a glimpse of her smooth, porcelain skin. Take couldn't help but stare, mesmerized by the simple, seductive act. His heart raced, the anticipation building with each passing moment. When she placed the bowl before him, it was more than just food. It was a symphony of flavors, each ingredient a note in a harmonious melody, prepared with love and attention. He took his first bite, the flavors exploding in his mouth, and felt her eyes on him. Their connection was electric, a silent conversation filled with unspoken desire, like two magnets drawn together. Each bite was a revelation, and each glance exchanged was a promise. The ramen was exquisite, but it was the chef's presence that truly captivated him. As he finished, he lingered, savoring not just the meal, but the intoxicating aura she exuded. An older man sitting at a corner table observed them with a knowing smile, sensing the tension in their looks. The man's wrinkled face betrayed years of wisdom, and his eyes twinkled with amusement. He watched as Take stood up, ready to thank the chef. "Did you enjoy it?" she asked, her eyes twinkling with a knowing look, like a cat that had caught the canary. "It was perfect," Take replied, his voice softening. She leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I'm glad you liked it, Take." He smiled. The game they had been playing all evening finally revealed. This wasn't just any ramen shop, and she wasn't just any chef. She was his wife, Yuki, who had opened this little shop to fulfill her culinary dreams. In the chaos of his life, he had found a way to reconnect with her through this playful, seductive pretense. The older man chuckled softly to himself, understanding the love and playfulness between them. Take looked at Yuki, truly seeing her for the first time that night. "Yuki," she smiled, a smile that was both familiar and filled with affection. "See you home soon." As they embraced, the rain outside continued to fall, but inside everything felt warm and perfect. The older man finished his meal, tipping his hat to the couple as he left, grateful for the reminder that love could be found in the most unexpected places. It was a sticky summer night, the kind where the air clung to you like a desperate lover. The festival sprawled across the park, a sea of glowing lanterns and garish stalls hawking everything from candy apples to cheap trinkets. It was the last place I wanted to be. Yet here I was, a freshly minted college graduate with a camera slung around my neck, hunting for the perfect shot of the fireworks. I'd never had much luck with women. 4 years of college and not a single date, let alone a girlfriend. So I stuck to what I knew, photography. The lens was my shield, my way of peering into a world that seemed perpetually out of reach. As I meandered through the festival, the crowd pressed in, a cacophony of laughter and shouted bargains. The scent of fried dough mingled with the tang of summer sweat. I was on the outskirts, aiming my camera at a particularly lively game stall when she stepped into my frame, a vision in white. She wore a yukata, simple yet exquisite, its fabric whispering against her skin in the evening breeze. The festival lights shone through, making it slightly translucent and casting delicate shadows that traced the contours of her body. Her hair, dark and glossy, cascaded down her back like a waterfall of midnight. It was Akiko, the girl every guy in my class had a crush on. She was untouchable, a goddess among mortals, and here she was, standing in front of me, inspecting a display of delicate paper fans. I lowered my camera, my heart pounding like a snare drum. Should I approach her? What could I possibly say? I swallowed hard, my throat dry as sandpaper, and took a step forward. Akiko? She turned, her eyes widening in surprise before softening into a warm smile. Kaito? I didn't expect to see you here. Her voice was melodic, each word a note in a song that tugged at something deep inside me. I forced a smile, hoping it looked more confident than I felt. Yeah, just here for the fireworks. Thought I'd get some good shots. She nodded, her gaze lingering on my camera. You've always been good with that thing. Mind if I join you? My heart nearly stopped. Sure, I'd like that. We walked together, our steps synchronizing as we made our way to a quieter spot on the hill overlooking the festival. The noise faded into a dull roar behind us, and the first fireworks shot up, exploding in a riot of colors against the night sky. I stole glances at her as I snapped photos, capturing the awe on her face as the fireworks painted her in hues of red, blue, and gold. The yukata clung to her, revealing just enough to set my pulse racing but remaining tastefully elusive. Her figure was like a perfectly composed photograph, every line and curve in harmony. A study in light and shadow that captivated the eye. Beautiful, isn't it? She murmured, not taking her eyes off the sky. Yeah, I replied, though I wasn't looking at the fireworks. She turned to me, her eyes reflecting the sparks above. I always admired you, you know? You were different, quiet but talented. You saw the world in a way no one else did. I felt a blush creep up my neck. Thanks. I never thought you noticed. She smiled, a soft, enigmatic curve of her lips. I noticed. For a moment, the world shrank to just the two of us, the festival a distant memory. I wanted to reach out, to touch her, to see if she was as real as she seemed. But fear held me back, that old familiar friend. The final fireworks burst overhead, a grand finale of light and sound. She sighed, a sound filled with 1,000 unspoken things. I should go. My family is probably looking for me. I nodded, a knot tightening in my chest. Yeah, sure. It was nice seeing you, Akiko. She stepped closer, her hand brushing mine, sending a jolt of electricity through me. It was nice seeing you too, Kaito. Maybe we can meet again sometime. Without the crowd. And then she was gone, a white wraith slipping back into the festival, leaving me with the taste of her words and the lingering warmth of her touch. I stood there long after the last firework faded, the camera heavy in my hands, wondering if maybe, just maybe, my luck was starting to change.